You're listening to Open Bible, Open Life with Pastor Kyle Mercer. At Two Cities, we're passionate about making and mobilizing disciples, and that doesn't end with Sunday. We're here to bring God's word and work into your week so you can be equipped to be sent wherever you go.
It's Christmas time, which means everybody's talking about what gifts should you get for your kids, what gifts should you get for your spouse. I wanted to do something different. Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about being single, and especially being single during the holidays. I had the chance to sit down with 3 different women, all single, but single in different stages of life. They talk about what that's like, what it's like to be single. Some of them talk about their desire for marriage. They talk about what does it look like to be single here at Two Cities Church. It's an incredibly helpful episode. I think you're really going to enjoy it. All right, ladies, welcome to the podcast. It is great to have all 3 of you here today. In fact, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, this is the first time I've ever had 3 ladies on the podcast at the same time. So we're going to get into a really interesting conversation today. I mean, I am very, very excited about it. I don't even know where it's going to go. We'll see. But before we even talk about why did we hand select each of you to be here right now? I know our podcast listeners cannot wait. First, though, tell us who you are. We'd love to, because I know you well, but introduce yourself and then tell us just briefly, how did you get to Two Cities Church?
Yes, I am Carrie Bennett, and I've been at Two Cities since the very beginning. Actually was invited by Carrie Wilson at Mount Tabor High School and have been here ever since.
All right, so you've been through our Goler days, our Northwest Boulevard days, and now through Patterson.
Yes.
Next.
I'm Julia Baradelli. I moved here 3 years ago to do our residency program, the communications track, and then about a year and a half ago, I came on staff doing communications and worship.
And if anyone listening recognizes you, it would be because most Sundays you're up there helping lead worship. So thank you for doing that. And finally.
Awesome. I'm Catherine Jump. We moved here from Detroit in 2017. We moved that December and visited a couple churches and ended up at Two Cities Church in January and never looked back.
Yes.
So been here almost 8 years with our family.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, ladies, so here's the plan for today. You and I, I guess all of us, we talked a little bit as we were sitting down getting set up here. Our hope today is to talk about this idea of being single during the holidays. And our team was thinking, what would be just a good conversation around Christmas time, New Year that we've not had yet? And then we just started to think, okay, well, single means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So maybe we'll come back with an episode with single guys. But we just thought, okay, let's talk about, we have in our church more single ladies than single men. We have in the church in America more single ladies than single men. Although we're all encouraged that more men are going to church, particularly more single men. Each of you are single in a different season. We have everyone from Julia. How long ago did you graduate college?
I'm 27.
You're 27, so maybe 4 or 5 years ago. You kind of graduated college, and so it's always interesting because when I think about singleness, I'm like, when is somebody single for the first time? Does that know what I mean? Yeah, so right. Nobody looks usually at a 16-year-old and says she's single. I'm not even sure. I mean, maybe we would say in college, but it's like, I don't know, lots of people in college are single. So I think singleness in some ways, correct me, I'm just thinking out loud. In some ways, people barely begin to feel like I'm single as they get out of college, enter the workforce. They're trying to find a roommate. They're trying to move to a new city. And they're like, I'm a single adult. So you've been single for a couple years. Yeah. We have you on the podcast to represent all the people in our church who are young and newly out of college and single. There's a lot of people like that. Carrie, you recently got this. I was there. I was celebrating with you, along with Catherine and our whole community group because we love you. Recently, you have turned 40 years old.
Yes.
So you would be, now we know you're going to live a lot longer than 80. Okay. You've got great genetics. But just, we're trying to have a real conversation here in the sense that one of the reasons we wanted to have you on is to hear your story as single, kind of in the middle of your life right now, in midlife. And that can be I'll let you tell the story. We'll each talk. A little bit different being single at 40 than it is being single at 27. Mm-hmm. And then Catherine, we have you on. Well, we've known each other for 8 years. Love you and your family. Is you found yourself just under 2.5 years ago, finding yourself being single again. So you and Andy were married for
14 years.
14 years. Mm-hmm. We've, I don't know at the time of this episode if your video will come out yet, but people will kind of get to, and we may get into that story as well today. But over the last 2+ years, you found yourself single again. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to have you guys on, and we wanted to talk about it. So basically, let's see where to start. Let's talk about in general, and we'll jump around. But Julia, tell us about you're gonna represent because this is single. We talked about this too. This is single at the holidays, but it's like we called it single at the holidays. I'm talking a lot. I'm about to pass off to y'all. Okay. We called this single at the holidays because we're in the holidays, and normally our singleness or our marriage or our infertility or whatever it is, any good thing or bad thing is usually amplified around the holidays. Mm-hmm. And so, but at the same time, we want it to be broader than just during the holidays. So Julia, not that you represent, you're not speaking.
I represent all
you represent
people in
all
their 20s.
single women in their 20s. Go. No, but like what do in general, what do we need to know about young single ladies in our church? What would we not know? What would the average listener go, no way? Is there anything? I'm putting on. By the way, none of you knew these questions before. In fact, if we're completely honest, I didn't know the questions beforehand. We're just having a conversation here.
If the question is like, what would families need to know that would be like helpful to the singles?
Yes,
it'd be to invite us into things. Like I'm just when you asked that question, I immediately thought of the young families who invite me over, and I'm like a part of their bedtime routine, like with their kids, like,
yes.
Or that like two couples are hanging out, but they invite me because they know I won't feel like a fifth wheel. They just want like I'm just their friend.
Yes.
So I think that's a big thing. Is just involving young singles, like not having them be defined by their singleness, but just like your friendship.
Yes. And so for you too, you have a sister who's married, and so you have. How long have you been an aunt?
5 years. My brother had the first grandchild.
Okay, so wow. Okay, so what role does that play in your singleness? The fact that you are, because a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah,
you are immediately connected, not just to some other good, great, godly families in our church, but you're connected to your sister and your brother and their kids. And how helpful is that? And as you, I don't even know what the right word is. Correct me if I'm wrong on these words. As you process your singleness, as you process, like, okay, I'm single. I'm not saying you're want to be married tomorrow. I'm just saying you're in a season of singleness, but yeah, or you would. Okay, we can get into that too. But like, how helpful is it having family in town?
It's really helpful. Yeah, because I don't normally ever spend a night at home alone. Like if that was on the calendar, I'm going over to my sister's.
So you have a roommate?
I have two roommates.
You have two roommates. Also recommend that for single people. Have roommates.
100%.
Don't live alone.
I'm uniquely.
We'll talk. Yeah. Hold on. We're going to go back and forth on
this.
There's
unique experiences here.
Maybe
I'm
not.
a big people person. I don't like being alone. Yeah. So it's helpful that when I go home, I either have people who are my friends, or I have my brother's house to go to, or my sister's house to go to, and I feel like I'm part of a family unit. So.
Yeah.
And I will say I'm very extroverted, very much people person. I think because of my age, it looks different, as you get older, and there aren't as many roommates to be had because your friends and my
makes
sister
a lot of sense.
Are married. But it's actually been really nice to live alone. And I also have a sister in town, and so that helps tremendously.
Can we tell the story real quick of how you got your house? Do you remember this? So tell the story. Because I was there. We'll go back to this, but I was there when I want to return to this and ask you about this, but when your sister got married, and then you ended up getting a house in Ardmore, but we're in the middle of COVID. So what do you do?
Yes. So, and I had broken.
I don't know if you guys know this story.
Yes, I'd broken my arm actually, and so I was an hour and a half away. I'm looking kind of quickly need to find a house because the house I'd been renting was going to be sold, and I'm looking around, and I've always wanted to live in Ardmore, and I found a house but couldn't drive. It's when the stay-at-home order, like everything had just hit with COVID, and so I find this house, fall in love with it, did a FaceTime tour, and then of course call Kyle and Margie, because they live in Ardmore, and just said, hey, would you want to go check it out? Let me know if I'm making a rash decision here.
Do you understand the pressure? We have Carrie calls us, and it's in the middle of COVID, and she goes, hey, I'm thinking about buying my first home. I've never been inside of it. Will you and Margie go walk through it and see if it's good for me? I'm like, this is a lot of pressure.
It was a lot of
all
pressure.
in the community group thread too. So
you guys, okay,
you were the pressure of like everyone's watching. You guys are making a decision.
Yes.
So, but do you like your house?
I'm in love with my house. I mean, every day I wake up, can't believe it's mine. I love where it is. Very close to you guys, which is nice. And obviously the back porch is a huge selling point. You guys, built one just
And,
like
and,
it.
and anyone, yeah, we ended up copying it. That's right.
Yes. But yeah, that was God's providence. It would seem crazy to a lot of people how that happened, but I was very lucky to get it.
Now for you, and we're going to get to you in a second, Catherine, for you, Carrie, as I look at your story, and because I've known you now for 8 or 9 years, we've been in a community group together. I feel like there was a key moment for you. I want to know how you process this. So you're single through your 20s. You're single in your early 30s, but you and your sister are twins. Yes. You have a twin sister. You guys are both single. I don't know all the ups and downs, I'm saying, but when I meet you guys, you're both single. You're both living in like some cool house in West End.
Yes.
You got the coolest house I've ever seen in West End. And you guys are just the nearest and dearest. I mean, you're identical twins. Because I know you, I can tell you apart. But if I close my eyes, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference in your voices. But you guys are. But there's a moment, and I know you're happy for her, obviously. But there's a moment where you guys are doing everything together. You're in the same life stage together. You're dealing with the reality of I think honestly being single a little bit longer than you guys wanted to be.
Yes.
And then she gets married.
Yes.
Tell us, because I think whether it's a twin sister, whether it's a good friend, most people, unless they're the first married, most people are going to deal with, man, we were single together.
Absolutely.
And now you're married, and now and I know it's been a huge blessing to you because I know how much you love
Yes.
Being an aunt.
I do.
But tell us a little bit about that transition over the last, it's been 5 years?
It's been probably about 10 years.
Has it been that long?
Yes, not since they've been married, but I feel like they met maybe at 30, give or take a months or a year or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, they dated for quite some time. And I think that's really when the transition began, and I had to. She was going on dates a lot. Her life began to look very different. And I, as I said before, am very extroverted. So I am out doing stuff with people all the time, but I wasn't with someone that I was interested in, and she was. And so it definitely was a lot of time with God, just kind of processing what this new normal was going to look like. But I'll tell you, she and I prayed so much for this. She continues to pray every day for me to find a husband. And so there was also relief. There was also hope, because Daniel, my brother-in-law, is just absolutely phenomenal. And I know that she met him at the perfect time. And I believe that, if the Lord brings me a husband, that's what it's going to look like. Yes. And so with, I feel like that's true of singleness. There's grief involved, but there's also so much joy, because my life is just as abundant as a single person. And so, but I do think that, like you said, there was like a moment, it shifted how I viewed my singleness. Mm-hmm. And so definitely some grieving, but also some real joy with that. Yeah. And yes, I have nephews that I'm obsessed with.
Yeah,
so
I know you are.
That helps.
I know.
Yes.
Catherine, of course, your story's all of our stories here are a little bit different, but your story's different in the sense that all of a sudden, in a moment, and you and I were talking before we started, how much of this is going to be about being single and how much this is going to be about loss, and we'll just talk about both. We have to. But, in a moment, you become single again. And, and I would say in our church, it is more common for someone to find themselves single again because of divorce. They're young and it didn't work out and they are so grieved, and it's a different type of single again, because that person is still around, and then they share the kids, and we're not here to talk about that. We're talking about, so for you, I guess my first question I just love to hear talk about is like, how have you processed being single again? How did it hit you? So even like, I'm thinking past the loss a little bit, which I know you're still grieving, but I'm like, at what point are you like, I'm single? Do you even see yourself that way?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a great question, because there was this period of having to just learn and navigate life in a different way, because I got married the summer after college. So
you got
I
married
really
very young.
went from my home, my childhood home, to being married, and spent all of my adulthood being a partner to somebody, and we were navigating things together. And there was some stuff that Andy was amazing at, and there was some stuff that were my strengths. And suddenly kind of breaking that apart felt really weird and really uncomfortable, because there were some things that, like, I have the maps to this. I was already doing this or that around the house, or this or that for the kids, or this or that even for the holidays, right?
Yeah.
And then there were the Andy things. And I remember in like the early days even getting like a little indignant and frustrated about it. Like, where is my husband? Like, this was his job. I was never, like, I never signed up for this or that thing that were like very much like Andy things, you know?
Well, I can remember the first Christmas, and you're like, or maybe it was a birthday or something, and you are creative, way more creative than me, but no one's as creative as Andy.
No
and so you were wrestling with that. Like, you were like, do I even try to be creative? Because like, maybe I should not try to be creative and just do something. Because if I try to be creative, it's not going to be as creative as Andy. Kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I definitely had to navigate a little bit about that of like, what were the Andy things and ideas that like, let's carry them forward? And what are the things that were like really special about Dad and we're not going to be able to recreate, or if we did, it'd be weird, you know, that it's just like not the same without him. I think of like, I don't know, like the Hall of Heroes Christmas tradition kept carrying that on, because that's something that it's something we do in our family, because I guess not everyone knows this one, but that every year Andy would give our two sons a picture of two people that really impacted history in an amazing way, and, you know, would speak into the boys of like, this, like, you are meant to grow up and impact the world in a big way. And so that was something that was really easy for me to continue on. It was a tradition that he started, and we've done it for the last couple of years. But, you know, some of the other things that don't need to be forced, that we remember them, I'm not coming up with like an easy example right now, that have just kind of been things that we let go over time. I don't know. Even Andy's like went through a giant passion for mountain biking. We are not mountain biking the way we were when
you guys had you had the yearly subscription membership to the Whitewater Rafting Center in Charlotte.
Oh,
you guys used to show up at Northwest Boulevard with the bikes on the rack.
Like, who's coming?
And Andy would be like, I'm going to the 9 o'clock and I'm going down to,
you know? And it's like, and it was so fun doing that together, but without like the champion of it. It was like, to let that go. So, yeah, so I think in single, and there's some things that like I learned how to do. I learned how to clean out the espresso machine, and I'm really good at it now.
Really good.
Come on.
Yes. I was like, that didn't feel like my job. So I think there is just that like learning new things, but also having to let go of things, because I'm one person.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what it feels like at Two Cities Church to be a single person. I want to know. I'm dead serious. I don't even know what you guys are going to say. Okay, so imagine this. So it's going to be, because Catherine, you made me think of this right now. So, you know, here's what I mean by this. Every once in a while, it just comes up. So it might be I'm in Genesis, or I'm in some book of the Bible, and eventually marriage is going to come up. It's going to come up in Ephesians. It's going to come up in Genesis. It's going to, you know, we did a whole series on Song of Solomon years ago, and we honestly have said before, we probably, you know, 2026 is Romans, but we're like, we need to probably, it's just marriage and sex and dating and relationships and all that. We need to get back into it. Here's what I mean by that, though. Okay, you show up to church, maybe you weren't paying attention. You didn't know what series we're in. You didn't know what text we're in. And all of a sudden, I'm like, all right, guys, welcome. We're in Ephesians chapter 5, and today we're going to be talking about marriage. How do you feel?
Well, I don't love it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want as we say here, and as the student ministry says very loudly, I want the real answer, not the right answer.
I will say that just because I don't love when I hear that's the topic doesn't mean that I don't know that I'm going to come in and, you know, God's going to speak to me through the sermon. However, for me, because marriage is something I desire, I feel like it does. There are parts of it that make me sad. And I do think, you know, just speaking to some of the other girls out there, women who feel the same, it's okay to give yourself grace in that. And every once in a while, there's a community group I choose not to go to if that's been the sermon topic, because I'm protecting myself. If I feel like I need to just step back a little bit with that. But I also think, how horrible if I went to a church that didn't talk about marriage and talk about it often, because we need we need people speaking into that biblically. And so I wouldn't want that to change. And I do think something our church does well is you don't see churches talk about singleness within a sermon. It's almost like an afterthought. And I feel like, Kyle, you do a much better job of that than most. And
then most, does that mean I could still be doing a better job? Tell me about it.
Well,
I receive it.
Well,
Give it to me.
I just naturally, though, as a married man, you're not going to always.
Yeah, I try. Well, we can get back to this because I want to hear what you guys said. I try to think of the categories genuinely single again, a lot in my mind, but I receive that. So you show up and you're like, do you kind of have like, what's the feeling? Do you have like a pit in your stomach? Like, oh no, I don't really want to talk about this.
Yes.
I receive it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I want to hear from each of you.
Yes, I want to hear what y'all think.
Here's why I say that, because I don't even know if you remember this, Catherine, but we're having a community group discussion, and you're always so sweet and kind how you say things. But you said something like, I can't remember. It might have been early in the Multiply series, and I don't know. I'm talking about manhood, womanhood, and you just said something like, that was very different listening to that sermon, no longer being married. Mm-hmm. So how either of you, but I want to hear from both of you. We're going to talk about marriage, guys. It's going to be 45 minutes. It doesn't even matter what text. Genesis chapter 2, Adam and Eve, but we're going to talk about marriage today. How are you feeling?
I think it's depended on the sermon. Sometimes there is really sweet looking back of what I did have and just like almost a bit of a giggle. Like I still think of all like the wacky things about our marriage. It's like every marriage has thing of like, oh yeah, I totally did that. Or, oh yeah, Andy totally did that. But I think at the same time, having to put that through the new filter of like, what does this mean for me as a single woman? Because I don't have that dynamic anymore, but I'm still part of a family. I still have 2 boys that I'm leading. So where do I fit in the non-majority construct? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think it's hard to speak to that because once again, it's a non-majority. You can't, this is a small group of single again.
Did you find yourself, so do you find, if I say single again, for example, we're talking about people who are single again, and I gave, you're single again through death or divorce. So you find yourself as another way to talk about you. One of the ways, you have many identities, primarily in Christ, of course. But I'm saying I could also say you're a single mom.
Yes.
And that's always like sad, And so I think about that because I love you and your boys. But when you say single again, but because you're single again through being a widow, do you feel like I can mostly relate to people who have experienced it that way? Or can you relate to just like single moms in general? Or do you feel like there's just a unique pain that I've found most solace with other widows?
I don't know a lot of other widows. I know a few, and they're lovely, and we've encouraged each other,
church?
But that isn't... I think through Calvary mostly. Some older women who are widows. Yes, I do. Now that you mention that. But primarily my friends are not. I think what I have appreciated with other single moms is it's just like we're going through the same challenge of that not having, I don't know, I'd call it parental backup. Like something goes hard and there's no one to tap in. And that's still hard,
You have talked about that. How do you balance, Catherine, are you being too hard or are you being too soft?
Yeah.
And you don't have Andy to go, Catherine.
It's like, let it go. Yeah. Or to be like, no, I'm taking this to the next level and I'm going to go talk to them in the other room, where there's no way to escalate or de-escalate. And that's hard.
I appreciate you saying that.
So I think that I feel that connection with other single moms because they're having to navigate the same thing, because even if they do have somebody else in the life of their dad and the life of their kids, that it's a separate thing. And so you have to make these decisions on the fly, and you have to make decisions for the future in a way that's a little different.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Julia, you get done singing. You sit down. And then you find out you weren't paying attention in Air War this week, okay? And you find out that it is... I'm trying to think of a situation which you wouldn't know we were talking about. But you find out it's a sermon on marriage. You didn't see it coming. How are you feeling?
I think where my mind goes is hoping that singleness will still be held up as like a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I'm like, as Carrie said, I'm so thankful that we talk about marriage because the scriptures talk about it. We need to learn about it. But that singleness won't be portrayed as like the less than option that doesn't have beauty, joy, or dignity. You know what I mean?
Talk to me about that, because I want the real answer. Do you guys feel that from the teaching ministry here or the culture here?
I think because the cultural narrative takes away dignity from marriage and like makes it something less than, we're trying to bring that back. And sometimes it can go so much to the side that then singles feel like the goal in life is to be married.
Right. Yeah. I think I agree with that. Sometimes I feel like marriage is held in such a high pedestal that, you know, if we're not married, it can feel like we are kind of inferior, and not from the church's perspective, from a cultural perspective, from a Christian perspective. And, you know, our ultimate goal in life as Christians is to have Jesus and to be more like Jesus. And so my ultimate goal is met if I am a believer. Do I want to be married? Yes. But my hope is in Christ. I can want to be married, but I'm working really hard at not allowing my hope to be in that because I wasn't promised that. And that's what I want to hear more of is not you're single, oh, bless your heart. And
one day.
Oh, you'll have it one day. And just, yes, is it suffering in the extent that we are grieving something we want desperately? Yes, for some of us. Yeah. But we are living our life. I don't get these years back that I've been single, even if I do find a husband. And so I'm living a life for Christ, and it's not suffering. I'm grieving partly, but I'm living a life of joy mostly.
Yeah. And I think it's tricky for me a little bit because my singleness is connected with grief. Like something bad happened, therefore I'm single. Wow. And I'm trying to separate those things because being single is not something that is construed as negative or less than in the Bible.
Well said.
So I'm still working all that out. Fear and trembling.
And you're doing a great
There's
job.
nothing wrong with being single.
Yes.
But it was traumatic. I'm sorry. And dramatic, how it happened to you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So talk to me about some of the best ways you've used your singleness. What are some tell me the advantages to being single, because I do live with, and some of you have maybe heard me say this before. So when John Tyson was here, we had this, maybe you listened to it, we had this brief conversation about singleness, but he was like a dog with a bone. He wouldn't talk to me about it. So we just talked about it. And he's great. And one of the things he said that I think this is what I wrestle with. He said there are, if you remember this is my interpretation of what he was saying. He said there are creational norms and there are kingdom purposes, or kingdom values even. And he said what the problem is, and this will get back to singleness. He said, so we can go to, and this is where I want to hear from you guys about how do you work all this out. Because kingdom value, I mean, there's a way to read, not even a way to read. You could take 1 Corinthians 7. And Paul basically says stuff that's like, really? You wish everybody was single? And, you know, if you find yourself, if your spouse deserts you, you don't need to get married. But if you want him to get married, go ahead, but marry someone in the Lord. Anyway, and then he said, I wish everyone could be single like me. And, you know, we understand the biblical, an overarching principle for singleness is for greater service. There's other purposes. But what John said, and this is where the tension I feel, just so you guys know, as a pastor and as a Bible teacher to a church every week, is so the kingdom value is like, you know, any of you, I could say, wherever you are, I could say, here, look at all the great things about how you could use singleness. But then John said, then there are these creational norms, which is, I mean, they're deep. They're, you know, desire for marriage, desire for children, you know, desire for companionship, desire for sex. I mean, there are these normal, built-in, they're spiritual, they're biological, they're ancient. Most people through history have experienced them. And sometimes this is, again, me trying to interpret John. It's like there's this massive tension of these two things. I want to live for these, because it is rare that I meet a single lady who does not really want to be married. And so I'm trying to find out how to tap into that, but also honor singleness. We can return to that in a second. But so if any of us can remember my question at verse, which was, man, what are some things, and again, yours is different because it's associated with loss, but if we can in any way put that part just a little bit aside and ask the question, what have you seen as an advantage in being single?
I mean, I do feel like they're quite a bit. Like sometimes, and this is terrible, but I'll be on social media and I'll see some mom and she's like, if only I could just sit at my house and watch TV on the couch. And I'm like, I do get to do that a lot, right?
Yeah.
But more seriously, I do think I am incredibly blessed. I have incredible friends, and I do feel like because I'm single at 40, I'm able to fit in a little bit better with married friends, friends with families, because of my schedule. I do think I am able to. I'm a high school teacher at Mount Tabor High School, as y'all know, and seeing the impact of I'm able to give a little more to my students, I feel like, because I'm single. And I get to see the reward of that when they come back to visit. And I have more time to an extent. I'm still very busy as, a single woman, but I have more capacity in some regard. And I just, got licensed to foster, and I've been doing respite, which you guys know. And I don't know. I would like to think that would be my story. Even I hope, in the future, that's my story, even with a husband. But I feel like uniquely there are things that I'm doing that God is, calling me to as a single woman.
Yeah, that's well said. Either of you ladies?
Yeah, as Catherine was talking about getting married so early and like making decisions with Andy and like splitting responsibilities with Andy, I was just thinking like, I've done all that with the Lord. Like when out of high school, I went to Bible college, and like my ideal would have been like after Bible college, married, children, like that would have been my ideal if I wrote my story. But it wasn't. And so then making the decision of like, okay, what do I do next? It was all with the Lord. And so I've learned to, even just like coming to the residency, if I was married, I think the decision of like the next move, it would have been like to my husband, what's your calling? Like, what do you feel like, where's the Lord leading us? But it was me looking to the Lord and like, okay, what giftings are in me? Like, what do you want me to do? And so I think I've grown a lot in partnership with the Lord. Because I've had to.
I have to echo that in a much more mundane way. Decision making has become so simplified.
Oh, I can see Andy would want to diagram it out.
Everything,
Spreadsheet.
and it's like we made a ton of decisions together. He was such
The
a deep
decision
thinker.
tree.
There were decision trees and whiteboards, guys. But also just being married with a spouse, you check in with each other. Hey, somebody asked me to do this. Does this work for you? This and this. It was the weirdest thing to be like, hey, do you want to go for a walk? Yes. Like, sorry, that's like a silly example, but just like the amount of decisions that was like, well, no one to check with. It's like the ability to make a decision quickly and just be able to pivot, and it's kind of cool,
It is different.
God's used that to, build friendships in my life for specific opportunities that maybe wouldn't have happened. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, people who are not married do not understand usually that your spouse is always in the back of your mind. Like for any decision. I mean, they get it. I'm saying, but like you're exactly right. If somebody asked me tonight, even though it's free, if they're like, do you want to come over and hang out for a couple hours at the bonfire, it's going to be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to have a
check
conversation.
with my spouse. Do they want to come?
Yes.
I don't want them to feel left. It's like there's
There is a freedom and a flexibility
Yes.
in your singleness that is, meant primarily for service, but can be used for so many. And that is service. Yes, I can go on a walk. Yes, we can hang out. Okay, let's talk about another element of our church that I hope everybody listening to is in. Okay, I've got a couple other. We'll see if we go a little long. Hopefully, everyone recording won't mind. I don't think we'll go too long. Here's the thing. What is it like being in a community group? Here's what I mean. I can start with you. Only because you can be honest, because you're in my community group. We're in the same community group. I'm not the community leader. But what I mean by that is right now, you are in a group that is all married couples. That has not always been true. But right now, all married couples, plus you. And you'd mentioned one thing, for example, if we're talking about marriage, I may not go to that group, but we have a relationship with you where you can just say,
Yes.
it's not like you're, being sneaky about it. You're just like, guys, I'm not going to, we're like, great. But what has it been like? Because I don't know what group you're in. I do know what group you're in. So we could talk about this, but let's start with you because then I have a follow-up question. Go ahead.
I do think it might be a little bit of an anomaly, but it has been the most incredible experience to be a part of the community group that we have been in for so long. And I know you're in a new one now, but I consider you part of the group.
We haven't kicked you off the text yet.
Yes, yeah, you'll never be kicked off.
That's right.
I don't know. And I think other community groups need to hear this, but I am not like the token single person. I'm an adult that's in a community group with other adults, and we are following Jesus together. And, there were times in my life where, because I'm single, I wasn't invited to things because it was a couple thing. I never felt that way in our group. Our group are some of my best friends, and so. But that wasn't always the case when I was first coming in, and people were new. But I never felt like I didn't belong. I never felt uncomfortable. The conversations at group when for example, there was a community group where we talked about motherhood, and that is something that hits a little close to home because I want to be a mom, and so. It had zero to do with who I would be discussing it with. Mm-hmm. It was the content and knowing I'm going to protect myself just for this week because that's been a little, raw. But I don't know that all groups are like that. I would hope and pray that they are, but it has only furthered my faith and encouraged me.
Yeah. Julia, are you in a group with any married couples?
Nope. All singles.
All singles.
Yeah. In this season.
What do you think about that?
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
My group is mostly like early 20s. I'm on the older end, and it's fun when you talk about marriage or singleness or womanhood, like having those conversations with younger single girls, because there's lots of different perspectives, and it's fun.
The one hard thing, I don't know anything about your group, so I can say this.
Great.
I'm guessing the one hard thing about an all singles group is if a couple starts dating in that group.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't. Let's just be honest for a second.
It's happened.
No.
It's
I'm saying, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's happened.
Then sometimes you're missing one or two group members. Yeah. That's the only negative. I mean, and we want it can happen in groups, and life's messy. And okay. So you're in a interesting. Okay, this is why it's helpful. You're single in a group, all married couples working for you. You're single in a group with all singles, and you like that, and you especially like it when it's time to talk about all that stuff and see what everybody says. Okay, you just recently are in a new group, and I think you'll have to explain. But
it's a bit of a mix. Yes, mostly couples. 5 singles, 2 of whom are engaged. So fewer singles than.
So headed toward 3 singles and a married couple.
Yes.
Okay.
4. I guess I'm 4. That's what we're talking about here today.
It's okay. Go ahead.
But no, I so appreciate community group. I never feel like I didn't feel that way in our group either. I would echo everything that Carrie said. But another thing that I wanted to add on to that is. I'm so thankful for my brothers in Christ in these community groups because my best friend was my husband, who was a man. Yeah. So therefore, like the person I talked to and was closest to and was my husband. That was great. When my husband passed away, all my dearest, closest friends, wonderful, are women, obviously. Yeah. And I kind of missed that. Relationship, the brotherhood in my life, and learning from awesome Christian men and living life alongside them. So I'm so thankful for that in community group because I think that helps that friendship and just conversation and getting into just conversations about the Lord together is really helpful.
Yeah, really sweet. Guys, okay, couple last things. Because we talked about the role that our church plays in talking about family. So I was recently with somebody, newer person to our church, probably married, couple kids, in his 50s, and he was talking to me. And he said, "You know what I really like about this church And I had never had anyone say this, because he said, what I really like about this church and what I think is so unique is your emphasis on family. Mm-hmm. And I thought that's interesting, because I normally will hear something about the preaching or the worship, or with the preaching, it's normally the directness or the cultural engagement or whatever it is. Right. And I never had that comment. Hey, what's so? This guy had been in church his whole life. He said, I just never been in church that dealt with marriages like this, that dealt with parenting like this, that dealt with singleness like this, that dealt with whatever, that dealt with the father-son relationship, the in-law. I mean, that's a lot of my applications to things. So I'll make one more statement, then ask you guys this question. So what I feel like when I'm talking about singleness specifically is I don't know that I often, now that, because we're close and love you, know your story, I think historically I've not thought as much about the widow. I mean, in the sense of when I'm saying single, I'm thinking widow. I'm not even often thinking about the person who's divorced, although I have the category for single again. When I'm talking to single people, I think part of it is I feel very differently talking. It's not really fair to talk about the single guys without them here, but let's just do it for a second.
They're here.
They're here in spirit. They're listening. Okay, I used to be one. Okay. But, I'm trying to say, like, it's like the old principle of, like, come for 6 weeks before you judge, not you guys, but before someone judges the teaching ministry of any church. Because it's hard to say everything in one sermon. I say all that to say, with the single guys, I'm like, and I don't know all their stories, and I need to get more connected to this generation and all of the different issues and struggles, and that's a whole nother podcast. But in some ways, with the single ladies, I'm like, there's only so much you can do. Like in the sense of, like, you're not helpless. But I'm just saying, like, if the guy is supposed to be the leader, he's supposed to be the initiator, blah, 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 blah. And we believe in all that. So sometimes I'm just trying to hit on them in some ways. So one of the things I want to know is, what do you all want to say to single men? I want to know it.
I'm available.
Like, yeah, there you go. No, but I'm serious. Like, what do you want to say to me to say to? If you no, I hear you. But like, what do you want to say to me to the single men in our church? Because I'm trying to, I don't do it that often, but I mean, obviously I do the, I did the big thing at the Multiply. Some of you are going to get married, and you're going to ask, and I even do a couple weeks ago, I said, some of you may have noticed somebody in here, and you're nervous to ask her out. And you're going to be as scared to ask her out if you don't. I mean, all of that is way more intentional than people might even realize. It's like, okay, here's a moment in the sermon that's to women, but I'm going to talk to the guys, and I'm going to give an illustration that just feels like right where some guys are. I think. What do we need to say to the single guys? They're great. We love them. We believe in them. There's lots of great single guys. I'm not here to beat them up. But what uniquely, and don't worry, at some point I'm going to have single guys on here, and they're going to tell you guys exactly what they think too. Okay? So tell me.
Wait.
Any thoughts?
I have so many thoughts.
Give it to us.
Okay.
Give it to us.
Well, I'm unique. So I'm in like the young adults generation right now. And what
gen are you?
I'm in the like weird, because I'm 98. Well, I was born in 98.
Okay.
So sometimes I'm Gen Z, sometimes I'm millennial, depending on what article you're reading. So this to young men is pertinent for dating, is what I would say.
Come on.
Is be interested, don't try and be interesting.
That's good.
Yeah. Of just like when you're on a date with a girl, be interested. So
interested in her.
Yeah.
Stop trying to
impress.
Yes.
I think women are taught, like, men are taught that they need to impress, and so I think they can bring that lie into a dating situation. It's just unhelpful. So
and how do they do it? They do that by talking about themselves a lot.
Just not asking any questions,
Yeah.
only answering
So
them.
be impressive.
And then you're like,
All right,
wow,
what
I
do you
just
think about
interviewed
this?
someone.
Maybe. So I agree with what you're saying. Maybe to the guys, it's like if you you said be interested, not interesting. But if you lead, pick the restaurant, pay for dinner.
Love that.
100%.
You will be interesting. But sorry. So you don't need to be more interesting than that. When you sit down, be interested. You know what I'm saying? Because I think guys are like, when we sit down, you need to do the right things.
Yeah.
Right.
That and then when you sit down, that's good. Okay, that's a good one. We may come back because I know you have more.
Yeah.
Again, you got to be in for a season, a role with Andy. Andy's investing in young men. So in an interesting way, you got to be a married woman watching Andy invest in young men. As well as,
Yeah.
You and Andy were single when you met. Maybe so go in any like what I mean. Like he was single. You saw a single guy do it well.
He was the best question asker I ever met in my
he
life.
Is.
Yes.
Well, he used to just go. Addie said to me one time. She goes, "I don't know what to do because Mr. Andy will just walk out to me and go, talk to me, Addie."
He did that to me every community
And
group. Yes.
she's like, at the time, she's like 11. She's like,
what are we talking about?
But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I loved that about him. I loved his boldness. If he made a decision and would just chase it. So I loved the illustration. If you're noticing somebody and you're feeling fear or whatever, it's like boldness. It's like, just go take the next step. That is so amazing and powerful and a big deal and more unique than you think.
Yep.
And boldness doesn't mean that you have, 100% you want to marry this girl, so you're going to ask her for coffee. Mm-hmm. It's okay if you actually don't really know if you're interested. That's what the coffee's for. And I think there's this fear of getting turned down, but just doing the asking up front and being intentional is so refreshing, and being honest, like if you get to a point and you're not interested, being honest with that, because we do have such great guys at our church.
Yeah, we really do. Yes.
And I feel like a lot of girls would say yes. They just have to make that step.
Yes. Yeah. Anything else? Julia, you have another thing, don't you? You said you have so many thoughts.
Well, okay.
We're almost done here, but I want to hear if you have any, because I think that was, no, go
You
with
got to
it.
hear him.
I'm not trying to like hyper spiritualize this, but this is
But
just like
you're about the Jesus juke right now.
Well, I'm
Go
just
ahead.
thinking sometimes when we talk so much about marriage, I get nervous that guys are going to like put their hope in their potential wife. And I'm like, I'm going to be crushed under that. So like my advice to guys would be like, be running after the Lord and like actively asking the Lord, like, how could a kingdom partner like come alongside me in this? Like, actually, I'm not trying to Jesus juke, but like,
No, I that's a great thing. Yes.
yeah. And then walk in that boldness and ask the girl who you think would be able to come alongside you in that. But if you're holding up marriage as this, like, my wife is going to complete me, and it's going to be unhelpful to us.
It's going to absolutely crush. Part of the problem, and we need to be done, but part of the problem in, I think, the overreaction that the church often has to the culture is we have made, in certain Christian circles, and I've been in these before, we've made dating so serious because dating is so casual in culture that sometimes people lose the relational friendship, relax, get to know each other in groups. A coffee date is not a proposal, kind of, and then what it turns into sometimes too, in those serious environments, is dating turns into interviewing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And and in date 2, you're asking about how many kids do you want to have, and it's just too intense for everybody involved. Okay, last thing, and we're done. Uniquely at the holidays, give us one thing that you love about being single at the holidays. Let's end on a positive note. What do you love you're single this holiday? What are you excited about using your singleness for this holiday season?
I'll go first. Being the age that I am, I don't know if this is unique about being in my 20s, but this isn't like using my singleness. This is just me enjoying it.
Yeah.
Lots of friends plan parties. So like
you're going to be going
I have
to
a craft
tons
morning on Saturday, like a ball Friday night. Next week, there's another like evening Christmas party.
You're going to be okay.
Just lots of being with friends, and I can do it all because I have the time.
Yep.
I love that. Yeah. I already said I'm doing respite for a 2-year-old this weekend, and just so sweet to have that at the holidays. And just like you said, having friends that have all these things, and I just get to say yes to all of those. And I recognize how uniquely special it is that I get to spend time with my parents. I don't have to split time with in-laws. And as they get older, I mean, I'm realizing more and more what a gift
that's
that
unique.
is.
That's unique. You don't have to decide between multiple parents.
Right.
In this season, go to your parents, invest in them.
Absolutely.
As they're getting older. Yeah. Any final thoughts for you?
I have the fun of having 2 families, so I get to celebrate with everybody over Christmas, which is really cool.
What does this mean? Are you going to?
So, everyone's coming to me this year, which is really cool.
I love
it. The first 2 years we did a Christmas in Michigan and we did a Christmas in Indiana, and the boys were like, "Can we please be home for Christmas?" And everyone has been so wonderful and sweet and flexible with us. So Andy's dad and his sister and her family are coming here for Christmas, and then my parents are coming over New Year. But it's just so fun getting to invite people in. I mean, Carrie, I was just thinking about how you came and helped me decorate my tree that first Christmas. That was so meaningful to me, and getting to make cookies with Margie. I mean, it's so fun to just get to invite people in.
Well, guys, thank you for being on the podcast. Seriously, thanks for helping me navigate a potentially very sensitive conversation. And I appreciate just the grace and maturity that you guys answer the question with. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks for tuning in to Open Bible, Open Life with Pastor Kyle Mercer. We'll be back every week with new conversations, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.